Hi, I'm Martin Albrechtsen.
Hi guys, I'm Saido Berahino.
Hi, I'm Darren Carter.
You're listening to the Baggies Podcast, giving you the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Hello and welcome back to the Baggies Podcast, where of course we're giving you all the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. We are back again today with another episode and the final episode of the regular 2021-22 season. On this week's show, we'll be reacting to the Barnsley victory in the sunshine, of course, and looking ahead to those all-important summer plans for the club. But before we crack on and introduce this week's guest, make sure you subscribe on your podcast platform or YouTube. Wherever you're listening from, it's great to have you on board. But on this week's episode, we're joined by content creator and Albion fan Aaron Flower. Aaron, welcome to the show. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, very well. It's great to have you on. I mean, you're the only other West Brom fan on my university course. I think that's fair to say. It was pretty hard to find another one, but we found you. How did you kind of get into supporting Albion?
Well, yeah. Well, like first to be on the being the only other one in the course. I think our course has got a big problem with armchair fans. And,
a lot of Premier League fans in there, aren't there?
There's so many Chelsea fans, Man United fans. I think we've got an Arsenal fan who's actually from North London, which is which is quite rare in our class. So he's allowed to pass, but not for the rest of them. But yeah, sort of. It's quite standard how I got into the Albion. Basically, I'm not from the Black Country myself, but my dad was born and raised in Bearwood, where half of my family still lives. And I basically, ever since I could walk, I was basically going down the Hawthorns with him. Obviously some of the best times during that era. We were in the Championship a lot, but we were always good in the Championship. And then when we were in the Premier League, we'd obviously be playing the big boys. It was always good fun. So yeah, that's basically it. I live in Coventry now. I lived in Coventry all my life, but we'd always travel up for the games. And yeah, I've been lucky. Seen some really good players, seen some really good teams. It's seemingly on the bit of the downhill now. I've seemingly had my fun with all those good teams, but yeah, hopefully we'll get back where we belong.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely the same. I'm very lucky to have seen a very high standard Albion in the Championship and also a pretty decent one in the Premier League as well. But I can imagine, Aaron, this season doesn't rank very highly in your sort of estimations in comparison with what you've witnessed previously. How does it kind of compare to your other seasons supporting Albion?
Yeah, I think it's a strange one because at the moment, without trying to be too harsh on the team and then the squad, there's not really any players who I look at and I sort of admire. I'm past the stage when I'm a kid and I look up to all the players as my heroes. Mm-hmm. But there's no real players in the squad at the moment who I look at and think, I love this player. I love the fact that they're at my club. They're really good. They care about. They want to play for the Albion. And there's just no one in the squad at the moment who really gets me excited, and it's quite sad, really. But I'm always going to be excited to watch the team and excited to get down to Hawthorns and experience that atmosphere. But I think at the moment there's just so much a disconnect between the fans and the players, and that's never really been the case as long as I've been supporting. There's always been quite a good relationship between fans and supporters, even when we've not been doing so well. So yeah, it's disappointing to see, but I'd consider myself quite an optimistic fan. I'm still excited for next season, even though I don't think we'll be that good. But yeah, it's just, I think obviously the major talking point is the squad overhaul, which is massively needed. But we just need to get players in who want to be at the club, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the season itself started off quite nicely in comparison to, I suppose, what we've had to look at through the sort of mid stage of it towards the end. And we thought it was going to be, well, perhaps another one of those special championship campaigns. Probably about 8 games into it, we were up flying in the automatic promotion spaces, but things have taken a bit of a turn, obviously under both Ishmael and Bruce. How have you kind of perceived the season as a whole and where we are now in the league? I can imagine, well, as every Albion fan is, I think we're all pretty disappointed with what is now the lowest finish in the league since 99-2000 season, which is quite a long time ago. So probably about 22 years ago, we finished obviously a bit lower than this, but it's our lowest finish since then. I can imagine that you're very disappointed, and as am I, to be honest.
Yeah, it's I think we started off nicely, and watching us during those early stages of the season, it looked like it was going to be sort of the free scoring side that we saw under Bilic a couple of years ago. But I think teams just sussed us out really, really quickly. After about 7, 8, 9 games, people realised that if you just let us have the ball, sit back, let us have the ball, and we can't do anything with it because we've not got the creative players, we've not got the quality in the midfield and, going forward to create enough chances. And we got success when teams tried to play against us and teams tried to control possession. But as soon as teams realised, hey, if we just let them have the ball and play them on the counter, they have no plan B. They can't create anything. If we just have a decent defensive performance, then we'll beat them. And I think as soon as we started to lose a couple of games, I don't know if the squad sort of started to turn on Ismail, and from there, we just never recovered, and we never got back that goal scoring ability that a squad of this nature, we have it's not a Premier League squad, obviously it's not, but players who have played in the Premier League and sort of held their own in the Premier League should have been doing a lot better. But I think with Ismail, and they just sort of gave up in the end. And after that, even though we could have still made the playoffs up until a couple of weeks ago, it just never looked like we wanted it that much. So it was a real shame in the end, because as you said, the start of the season was good, but yeah, just really disappointing from the fans' perspective. And it's turned sour in the end with I was on about the relationship between the players and the fans, and it's no wonder it's turned like that, because they've been horrendous this season.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been really difficult to watch at times. But I suppose yesterday's win, Aaron, gives us a little bit of hope. As you said, you're quite optimistic. I think I am as well. I try my best to put a positive spin on it, which admittedly has been an impossible task at times this season. But 4-0 against Barnsley, it was a great end really to what has been a pretty shambolic season, and the joint biggest win of the campaign as well. Looking back to the 4-0 win at Sheffield United against Sheffield United at the Hawthorns earlier on in the season, which seems just light years away from yesterday's game. But of course, it was a pretty nice way to end, and obviously getting a few goals, it was a good one to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's always nice to see the lads win, even if it's not it doesn't mean anything. It's always brightens up your weekend when you win. Because you care so much about it. And yeah, it's been a shambles of a season, but it's I think we've got to put that behind us now. Like I said, it's a long time ago, but we have had worse seasons, and we should have done so much better. But it's time to go forward now. Lose a couple of players, bring in a couple of players, like I said, who want to be here. But yeah, it's ending the season on a couple of wins, a couple of clean sheets. It's just a nice feeling. Gets you through the week. And yeah, I think I think we played well. Didn't play so well against Reading, but it was a good defensive performance against Reading, and then yesterday was really, really good. I think players were playing with a bit of fun. You could see a few smiles on their faces, which we haven't seen pretty much at all this season. But yeah, it's nice. I think there were a couple of standout players. I think Dean Garner, was showing a bit of confidence, which we haven't seen from him. Pretty much for about 2 years now. So I think if we can have him playing with a bit of confidence next season, bring a couple of players in, if DK comes back and impresses, I think we could be well up there if it's managed correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dean Garner, I'm sure we'll come on to, because as you said, he did look a little bit like the sort of Dean Garner that took us up along with Pereira that year. But Bruce made 2 changes to the side that beat Reading in that final away game of the season, which as you said was quite a solid defensive performance. And I know it was only 1-0, but it felt like it could have been a little bit more than that. But he did make a little bit of a strange decision, I suppose, for some, which was Matt Clark going in at left back. Maybe Donna Furlong coming into the side wasn't as strange, but Matt Clark at left back was quite an interesting choice, because it's not a position he's played for Albion before. Obviously, we know he's a left-sided defender normally on the left of that back three, typically throughout the season. But he opted to bring him in, maybe over Zach Ashworth, who I think was pretty impressive against Reading when he came off the bench and at half time for Connor Townsend. But yeah, I suppose some would have liked to have seen a lot more youth coming in from the start. Is that something maybe you'd have wanted to see, or were you pretty pleased with what Bruce put out in the end?
I thought it was a little bit peculiar, especially the decision to put Clark at left back was a really weird one. I thought instead of Ashworth, who, like you said, did play quite well against Reading when he came on. But yeah, really odd that one, because Clark, you could see in the way, obviously we won the game 4-0 and he scored, so you can't have any problems with his performance. But you could tell he is not a natural left back in any way, shape, or form. He got a couple of people took the ball around him, and yeah, it was just an odd one, and it seems like a feature of Bruce is that he doesn't really want to give the youth a chance, and because we're so late in the season and because we're not playing for anything, I think it's a strange call to not have any real youth in the team. Even Gardner Hickman was dropped.
Yeah.
Which I really didn't understand. But then again, I think it's Steve Bruce maybe trying to suss out who of the senior players is good enough to stay.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. It's because obviously he's going to be trying to get rid of a few of them who are on bigger contracts, and who aren't playing well enough to earn those contracts at the moment. But I think what he's trying to do is just establish, who he wants to keep and who he doesn't want to keep. So he's sort of just throwing players on there and be like, prove that you're good enough to stay at this club. The youth will play their part, because we're not paying anything for them. They'll have their time to shine, but now it's your time to go out and prove that you deserve to be on the money that you're on, and you deserve to stay in next season.
Yeah, and I suppose maybe a little bit of a factor for the youngsters not playing. Obviously, we did see Caleb Taylor, Zach Ashworth later on in the game, which was nice. But I suppose a little bit of a factor is their PL Cup run, which they're currently on at the moment. Obviously, they got their final on Friday. I suppose maybe that could have come into it why they didn't get a start. But as you said, yeah, I think Bruce was kind of trying to give them a little bit, especially like the Clark at left back. I suppose he's kind of just trying to see what his versatility is like. I think we found out that although he did play pretty well and obviously grabbed his goal, maybe he's not the natural left back that I think Bruce would have hoped to stick him in there. But I think he was just trying to sort of suss out a bit of versatility in the squad, trying to work out who can play where. And I suppose he's just trying to see the every single option that he's got in this squad in terms of looking forward to the summer and who he can keep, who he can get rid of. And yeah, I think he's probably found out everything he needs to know about this squad throughout his time. I think he's found out definitely the shortcomings, and he's probably found a couple of little little things that maybe he wasn't maybe a bit, he was a bit negative about at first, but perhaps has found a bit of joy in them. And yeah, I suppose a positive, I guess, is those academy players coming on later on in the game, Zach Ashworth and Caleb Taylor, as we said. I suppose they didn't have much to deal with defensively. Barnsley, looking a pretty poor side and already relegated by this point. But it was nice to see some academy products given a bit of a game. Obviously, not from the start as we've established, but at least I think Caleb Taylor must have got at least half an hour, and Zach Ashworth about 20 minutes as well. I suppose. Aaron, it's always nice to see youth players coming in and given a chance. I think that always hits a bit nicer than maybe bringing in somebody with not a lot of connection to the club.
Yeah, of course. It's one of the best feelings as a fan to see your youth players coming through who can play a part in the squad. We've got such a good academy. We've got players coming through all the time who look like they can contribute, and that was a factor again yesterday. Caleb, like you said, Caleb Taylor, I thought played really well, almost got a goal as well from a corner. Zach Ashworth played his part, didn't have much to do defensively, but they looked really up for it. And that's a big thing that you get from academy players. And what we've seen from Gardner Hickman this season is they are really up for it. They're going to, they want to impress so that they can, get professional contracts, but also they care about the club. They've been at the club for years and years and years, and they've earned their chance to prove themselves. So, I hope we do see a bit of youth next season. Of course, it's important to, establish like veterans in the squad and people who are, know the championship. But you need youth in your team if you're going to succeed. And it's nice to see some talented ones that haven't gone to Villa for once. So yeah, but yeah. I mean, youth is so important for us. We've with Dara O'Shea in the squad, we've got Josh Griffiths coming back off loan, who I think can challenge for the number one spot potentially next season. We've got a really good academy, and we should be utilising it to full effect.
Yeah, we should, and as you said, it's nice to see some that haven't maybe gone across to Villa Park, and I think that we've managed to keep quite a good few players that we can maybe see getting some first team minutes next season really, and hopefully can play a bigger part in it. And I think maybe Caleb Taylor's a little bit unlucky as we've got so many centre backs in the squad this season to not have had a few more minutes, because I know that Ishmael was a big fan of him, and Bruce says that he's the next best youngster to come out, which I suppose is a bit unfortunate for him, because he's probably at times, at one point this season before the centre back injuries, he was probably about seventh choice, which was quite must have been quite frustrating for him. But I suppose he'll be glad to get some minutes, and he'll be glad to I suppose see the back of a few of the centre backs maybe in front of him throughout the summer, and maybe clear a bit of a pathway for him in the first team as well. But a man that I suppose I have been a little bit critical of on the podcast, I suppose, is Karlan Grant, who grabbed a double yesterday. That's 18 goals for the season for him as well, his second highest tally in his career. It was a good it's been a pretty decent campaign for him in terms of goal scoring, but I suppose he could have had a couple more really when we think about it, missing the penalty, and he also rounded the goalkeeper, hitting the post. What's your assessment been of him this campaign, Aaron? Do you think the goals have kind of done enough to warrant him? Well, I think he definitely should be here next season, but do you think it's done enough to kind of warrant him being in the plans for next year?
Yeah, I think he'll be in the plans for sure. It's a strange one with Grant, because he's not played well this season. He's not played well at all, but he's still got an impressive amount of goals. And without his goals, where would we be? Because I think the next most is Robinson on about 6 or 7. Which is pitiful. There's no goals in this squad. He's sort of the only one who brings goals at the moment. So I guess we have to thank him for that. I thought he was good yesterday. He was really up for it. It's just interesting to see where he sort of lies next season, because I think from reading what a few of the journalists think, and they sort of say that DK is sort of the man, that we want to go for we want to put a focal point on him going forward. So, does that take Grant out of the team? Does that push him out wide, or where does that leave Carl Grant? Because I think he's done enough to deserve, a chance at staying in the starting 11 sort of thing. But at the same time, I'm not sure how effective he is on the wing or sort of playing behind a striker. I don't know if he has the technical ability to do that. I think he's a great finisher. He's by far the best finisher at the club at the moment. But can he bring a ball down and hold a man off and play someone in? Or can he put a good ball into the box? I don't think so. But like I said, he's put a shift in this season. I think some of the criticism of him has been a little bit unfair, but at the same time, he's not that great a player. But like I say, he's saved us a few times this season with his goals. So I think he deserves a chance next season and going forward, because he's still a young man. He's only 24, I think. And he can give this team a sort of lethal finisher in the box. But it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with him and DK, if they're going to try and play them together, if Bruce is going to try and play one or the other. I'm just interested to see what he does with it, really.
Yeah, me too. I think obviously Grant's goals have been massive for us, really. You think about the games, not just obviously that he's scored in, but the ones that he's scored in, they tend to be ones that are single goal margins. I mean, you look back to, I suppose, the purple patch that he had throughout October, November sort of time, where he scored, I think, the winning goal against Hull, scored the winning goal against Birmingham City, scored both goals against QPR. There's quite a few games there that hung in the balance, but his goals have kind of helped us out. And obviously the Reading game the other day was another example of that. But yeah, I'd like to see him paired with DK. I think Bruce is a bit of a fan of the 4-2-3-1 with a winger either side of the striker. So maybe Grant could be kind of a bit more of an inside forward like he started the season. But as you said, I'm not sure how effective he'd be as a winger, really, coming in off the touchline and putting in a cross and stuff like that. I'm not sure how effective he'd be at that, but he's quite nice when he's kind of hiding out on the kind of inside of the edge of the box, just sort of off the left-hand side. That's where quite a few of his goals have come from. So maybe he'd be a bit more effective there. But I can certainly see him doing a job up front with DK if that's the way that he is to go forward. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Steve Bruce does with that. But another player, Aaron, that impressed, as we alluded to earlier on, was Grady Diangana. He looked, I suppose, close to the player that we'd seen before. He looked like a lot of the team, I think, full of confidence and some good moves with the ball. Took his man on quite a few times and nearly grabbed a goal himself. I think he just shaved the post. Yeah, I'm really pleased with his performance, and gave me a little bit of confidence that, as you said, with the right players around him, maybe he could look a little bit better next season and look close to the player that along with Pereira got us promoted last season. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I was glad he started, actually, because I thought Bruce might drop him in place of Robinson for the game. So I'm glad he did start in the end, because like you said, it was a chance for him against what was, in no disrespect to Barnsley, against a really, really weak Barnsley side, a chance for him to sort of try a few things and just play with a bit of freedom, a bit of confidence, take a few people on like we know he can do, do a couple of roulettes and a few tricks. And it was nice to see him playing like that again, because like you say, I don't know what it is about Diangana, but he's had a bit of a catastrophic season, and he's looked like he doesn't want to be here at times, which is disappointing, because I know he felt like he deserved his chance at West Ham. Yeah, he wanted to play for West Ham. He didn't really want to play for us. And in a way, he's a bit unlucky that West Ham have sold him and then gone on to be really good. So I'm sure, in my mind, I think he's still a bit upset about that. A bit, hurt being sold to us instead of given a chance with West Ham in the Premier League. But at the same time, that was a long time ago now, and we really want to see him back to what he can do. And I think next season is really make or break for him, because if he doesn't if he doesn't do well again, if he gets one goal all season like he has this season, then he's probably done with the club, and he's probably not interested with the club anymore. But if we see him play like we did yesterday, he's got a bit of confidence, got a bit about him, because we know he can play like that, and we know he's got goals, we know he can contribute, like he's got end product. But I'm worried that player is gone. But like we said yesterday, was a nice little reminder of what he can do, and I just really hope that he has a good off season, has a good pre-season, and he can connect with the players, and that he gets a good run out on the wing, on the left side, where he's more comfortable. I think if we just give him the chance to play exactly where he wants, in exactly the system that he wants, and see what he can do, because he is that good a player. He's a player that you can sort of build around. Obviously, we haven't seen that this season, but yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do next season. But at the same time, I think it is very make or break for him.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried, because I think he's one of those players, I don't know about you, that you just want to keep giving the chances to. You want to persevere, because obviously you've seen that, well, more than a glimmer really of what he can do in that first season on loan with us, and you kind of want to keep sort of giving him the chance. But I suppose there will come a point, and I really want to see the best from him, but I suppose there does come a point, as you said, next season is probably make or break for him. And there will come a point where you kind of say, right, is he going to ever rediscover that form? If not, maybe he's not going to be the one for us. But I think one of the big factors in this is probably that we're still paying for him. I think that's probably quite a big factor in whether we keep or sell him at some point over the next couple of seasons. But I think you give him, I agree with you, Aaron, you sort of keep him in that left winger role. You play him exactly how you want to play, because he's that good that you can afford to do that, because if you give him the space and you give him the time and freedom, and hopefully he gets that confidence, he can be the player that turns the team around really. And I hope that with DK coming back, maybe somebody a little more creative behind him as well, that he kind of starts to rediscover that form. But yeah, I think we have to consider Pereira's not with him anymore. I suppose that they were such a big duo together. I'm sure lots of Albion fans are probably shedding a tear at the thought of the thought of that was our sort of main talisman pair that season. But it's not been like that for Diangana this season. He's kind of been expected to be the sole creator, the guy who does all the tricks and flicks himself. And I suppose Ishmael's system didn't really allow for that. It didn't really allow for somebody to kind of, be a bit of I'm not going to say a luxury, but kind of be the creative force and pick up the ball and kind of have not a lot of defensive responsibility. Whereas, he was kind of trying to cobble everybody into this system. And I don't think Bruce will be like that. I hope that Bruce will kind of unlock Diangana and kind of let him flourish, really, let him have a bit of freedom. So fingers crossed we see a bit more of Diangana. But I think we do have to consider again that it was a very poor Barnsley side. I think that was practically I think only Corley Woodrow up front was over the age of 23 or something like that. I think I heard that stat yesterday, which was ridiculous. Yeah, which was a bit of a shame, because obviously we'd like to see us put in that sort of performance against a pretty decent Championship side. But I can't help but think that maybe we've contributed a little bit to Barnsley being poorer than they have been. Definitely poorer than they were last season, because that season was amazing. But taking Ishmael off them and Alex Mowat, who I don't think either of them have quite worked. Well, Ishmael definitely didn't, but I don't think Mowat's quite worked for us yet. But I can't help but feel, Aaron, that we've played a little bit of a part in them finishing where they have in the league.
Yeah, it's sort of a situation where it didn't work out for anyone. It sort of flew up in everyone's faces. Yeah. Because thinking about it, I was happy with this mail when he came in. I thought, wow, he's done an insane job at Barnsley. Got them to finish 5th in the league with the squad they have. That's outrageous. But at the same time, they had a very distinct way of playing, and they would hit teams on the counter. They would play Ismail ball, and that's that sort of system. Thinking about it, we should have thought, because obviously he wasn't the first choice as manager. I think he was probably third or fourth choice. We kept getting sort of turned down in the end. But his style of play really didn't fit us, and we should have known really that it wouldn't fit us because we've not got particularly hard-working players. We've not got players who work really well out of possession. We've not got players who are going to throw themselves in front of every ball, and I think he got frustrated with that, and the players didn't respond to that really well. But yeah, I do feel sorry for Barnsley. Not got the biggest budget in the world, obviously. Very, very thin squad as well. I had to rely on some loan players. And then there's the Moet situation as well, who is a player who started the season so well, scored a couple of absolute worldies. And great moments, probably some of the best moments of the season that he's given us. But at the same time, he's been really, really poor since then. I don't know what it is. I think he lost a lot of confidence as well. As soon as we started playing poorly and Ismail leaving, it's got to be a bit of a confidence breaker for you to have the manager that really well, and the manager that was insistent on bringing you in, and for him to be kicked out. And then of course he got some backlash from the fan base. Not saying that that's undeserved or anything, because he wasn't good enough, but he's a strange one. I don't know how much a part he'll play next season. I'm not sure how much Bruce rates him. I think going forward, sort of the plan might be to bring in a more creative midfielder, someone who can do a little bit more, who can unlock a defence, and then play him next to Malumbi potentially. So I'm not sure how much that leaves for Alex Mert really.
Yeah, neither. I'm not sure I can see really a clear path for him in the first team next season. As you said, I really don't know whether Bruce rates him. Has he been playing him because he kind of has to, because there's a limited amount of options in that midfield? I suppose he probably has been, but whether he actually rates him, I suppose, will be down to next season, and to see whether he brings in a couple of new midfielders to replace him. And I suppose the summer's going to be big for Albion, and it's massive really. They have to kind of get it right now. One of the conundrums is Matt Clark, who we mentioned probably isn't starting left back for anybody really, but overall this season, supporters player of the season as well, named this week, which was quite nice for him as a loan player to come in and get that. He's kind of, obviously Malumbi signing permanently. He's the only loan player that's left really to take a look at for next season. He bagged his first Albion goal in what could be his last appearance for the club. Would you like to see him stay, or do you think? I've seen quite a few people say that we have got too many centre backs at the club. Is it probably not an area that you'd like to see improve? What do you think about him?
With Matt Clark, he's been arguably our most consistent player this season, and it's very peculiar for a lone player to win supporters player of the season. I think it does say a lot about the other players, the fact that he's won it. I think when I was voting, I voted for Gardner Hickman in the end, but it was sort of between him and Clark. Because looking down the list, there was no one that I really wanted to vote for, which is quite sad. But yeah, Clark, I think if we can get him for a decent price, so a similar price to what we got Malumbi for, I think it's definitely worth keeping him around if we can do that, because he's I don't think Brighton particularly rate him. He's probably not a Premier League level centre back, but like I said, he's probably been our most consistent player, left-footed centre back. With Bartley getting on, who knows if he'll be at the club next season. I think it's definitely an option worth exploring, because he's a decent player. He's a good championship level player. But then at the same time, we've got centre backs everywhere at the moment. This is the only position that we're really deep at. And I think, but at the same time, I think we're going to lose a lot of centre backs over the summer. So yeah, I'd definitely bring him in if the price is right, and because we're not going to be paying millions for anyone this transfer window. So if we can get him on the cheap, I think it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I quite like him. I think I've enjoyed. I don't think I can say this about many Albion players. I've enjoyed watching Matt Clark this season. At times, I think he had that spell where I think he just come back from having COVID, as a lot of the defenders did, and I think he looked a bit shaky when he came back. And I think he had a few mistakes, and we kind of saw maybe why Brighton are a bit sceptical to give him that chance in their team. But overall, as you said, most consistent player this season. Player of the season was a bit of a conundrum for me. I went for Gardner Hickman as well, to be honest. I'm disappointed maybe not to see an Andy Carroll option in there. I think a lot of fans were, maybe just to give him a send-off. But yeah, I'd love to see Matt Clark stay. As you said, if we can get him on a good deal, I can see I can see maybe at least 3 of the centre-backs at the club leaving this summer, because I think Bruce is quite determined to play a 4, so I don't think you'll need 7 centre-backs in the squad to do that. But yeah, I think Matt Clark, if you can get the price right, I think I actually think he's a really good footballer rather than kind of a defender. I think we saw yesterday a little bit of what he can do on the ball, maybe not off it, maybe in those wide channels where, as you said, he did get turned around a couple of times by some of the younger Barnsley players. But yeah, I think definitely the price, if the price is right for Matt Clark, I would definitely be going in for him. He's only got a year left on his Brighton deal, and he's never played a game for them competitively. So I don't think they're fans of him, as you said. So yeah, for me, Matt Clark's a must sign. But yeah, I haven't written this in the podcast notes, Aaron, so I'm going a little bit off track here. But Andy Carroll has just kind of sprung to mind when I was thinking about the Player of the Season awards. We haven't done a podcast since it's kind of been revealed that he's leaving the club. What have you made of him coming into the side? Because I think we can all agree that his application has been has shown up quite a large amount of the playing squad since he's come in. But reports of him wanting £20,000 a week is quite extortionate for a guy who's about to turn 34. What do you make of the decision that Bruce has made to let him go? I think another one of the points he made was him dominating the play style as well.
I think it's one that he sort of forced our hand. You know, we're not paying 20 grand a week for a striker turning 34 who's almost certainly going to have at least one major injury every season. And that's not a knock on, and that's not a dig at Andy Carroll, because, you know, I think this, as fans, we were so starved this season of a player who showed a bit of passion and showed a bit of fight, and that's why we took to him so well. You know, I was just saying, you know, I thought, you know, Andy Carroll he came in and, you know, immediately sort of was fighting for everything. You know, he was winning 100 headers a game. Like he was dominating in the air. You know, he gives us that bit of bite, and he gives us that option. But at the same time, like, no one's going to pay 20 grand a week for Andy Carroll, sort of thing. If he was a bit younger and if he wasn't so injury prone, maybe. Yeah. But, you know, with the club already having a big wage bill, and, you know, already saying that, you know, we don't have that much money to spend on players, and that we've made poor financial decisions in the past couple of years. There was no way we were going to pay that in the end.
Yeah, I think I think actually you might struggle to find another club willing to pay that kind of money for him, because, as you said, it's a big risk. He's been playing, I think he was on £1,000 a week at Reading and not much more really with us. So I think it's a big risk for any club to take. You know, even I thought, you know, maybe some mid-table championship options would be after him, but I can't see many going for that as a real risk. That's a real risk for a player of his age and injury record as well. I know he's kind of proved himself for the half a season he's been with us. I think he's only missed a game for injury, but I just do feel like there's injuries in there, isn't there? Of course, as we've seen, but I think it's a big risk for any club to take. So I've got a feeling that we could potentially see him somewhere down the line at another championship club, but I think that will only happen if he obviously reduces his demands. But I suppose he kind of looks at the squad and he probably points a few of them out and goes, look what he's on, look what he's on, look what he's on, and goes,
for sure.
You know, I've shown the application more than they have, so why can't I earn the same amount? And I suppose he's got a point there, but I think we've made mistakes like this in the past where we've brought in players that I think we have a bit too much of a sentimental value in, rather than kind of the football and the financial side. So yeah, unfortunately with a heavy heart, it's a shame to see Andy Carroll go, but I suppose it has to happen really in football, and to kind of keep ourselves from making similar mistakes as we have in the past. But as for players that could come in this summer, I think we've seen 4 kind of transfer targets from most of the journalists coming in: John Swift, Jed Wallace, Dara Lenihan and Joe Rothwell, both from Blackburn. They're all targeted. I suppose they're all free transfers because, as you mentioned, we're not going to spend millions on any player this season. But do you think any of those might be of interest to us, Aaron, next season?
Yeah, I think the main need that we have is a central midfielder who has got a bit of quality. And who can sort of unlock a defence and play a vital pass. So it's something we just don't have at the moment. We need someone who can play alongside Malumbi. Malumbi's, he'll bring the energy, he'll bring the defensive side, but we need someone alongside him so that when he wins the ball back, just give it to so-and-so and let him sort of dictate the play. And with Blackburn's Rothwell and John Swift, I think they both have more goal contributions this season than our entire midfield. So I'm not sure we can go massively wrong with those 2 options, as long as they're not, when they're not wanting extortionate wage bills. And I sort of thought about this before. Was thinking about this a bit yesterday after the game. Is that maybe they will be? I think they probably will be asking for a little bit of money because they're proven championship players, and we're not going to have to pay a transfer fee for them. So obviously their agents are going to be wanting a lot more money because that's just how it works. If you're on a free, then you're probably going to be making a little bit more money. Just based on the fact that the club isn't having to pay a transfer fee. Lenihan's another one that's interesting because he is, the epitome of the solid championship centre back. Statistically, I think he's ratings-wise, he's Blackburn's best player. I was looking up on a few ratings websites, just trying to compare the players, and yeah, he was number one at Blackburn. But yeah, he's a good player. But like I said, if we're going to bring him in, we're going to need to lose probably at least three of our centre backs. I don't think we can go very wrong with all of those options. They're all options that have proven championship players. I don't think we may be able to sign maximum two of them because we've got to be very smart about the way we spend our money now. Unfortunately, but I think they're all good options. I'd personally be targeting Swift and Lenihan, but I wouldn't be annoyed at having Ivan Lawrence or Rothwell as well. I think they're both good players. So I'd be happy with any of them, to be honest.
Same, to be honest. I think we're just trying to reinforce the squad as much as we can. And I think those four, they're very good championship players, all of them. I think they all do a very good job. So yeah, if we can have all four, but I think, as you said, two's probably more realistic. I think you go for all four of them, see who you can get, see what other offers they got on the table, see what sort of money they're asking for, which, as you said, I think will probably be a bit more than we're kind of expecting to, because they're free and the agents will want a bit more money for that, as you said. But yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with any of them, to be honest. But Aaron, to finish off on a bit of a positive note, obviously the season tickets is another big talking point of the week. I think dirt cheap comes to mind with some of the prices, which is outstanding value. I mean, £23 for an under 17 season ticket, £1 a game. £99 for 17 to 19-year-olds and £199 for 20 to 25s, and frozen prices in all the other adult categories as well, along with a fan zone as well. That's been announced. Hopefully this will bring a nice boost to the attendances at the Hawthorns. And as Ron Gurley, the CEO, said, hopefully it bridges that sort of disconnect between the fan base and especially a lot of the younger fans who I'm sure won't have been, might have been deterred by this season. But hopefully these prices mean that, they can keep coming back and the atmosphere's a lot better at the Hawthorns as well, because it has been a little bit flat this season.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think it's really important for them to have done that, and as well as ending the season with a couple of wins, to announce the fact that the season tickets are still really cheap. I mean, for under 17s to be going for a quid a game is just outrageous, really. Like, who else is doing that? Right? Like, especially at this level, no one else is doing that. And there are a couple of other clubs who have really cheap season tickets. I know Cardiff comes to mind as a really good club for that. But I think pretty much throughout my entire life, West Brom have been brilliant with season tickets. I've not had to shell out ever, really.
Yeah.
I can get a season ticket for under 200 quid next season. There's not many other clubs that offer that. And yeah, it's just really important. Like, there's some good people at this club, some really, really good people who care about the fans, and this is just this is just proof of that, really. So it's nice to know that the fans are being thought about, and that they want to be filling the Hawthorns next season, because, like you say, some fans will be deterred, about how terrible this season was. But at the end of the day, football fans are, optimists. We go and watch our club, and even though sometimes we know we're not that good, you go anyway for the atmosphere and to get behind the lads, and making that as price accessible as possible is so positive. And I really applaud the club for doing that.
Yeah, me too. And hopefully, as you said, this can not deter people away. Hopefully, I was worried they might put the prices up. I think Villa this week have decided to.
Villas are bad. Villas are really bad.
Add like an extra 100 quid onto some of the season tickets, which in this day and age, and with the cost of living at the moment, it's quite an extortionate price. And consider lots of Villa fans and Albion fans are in the same boat with that sort of thing financially. Exactly, but you look at Albion and what they're doing to combat that, and that's a really nice step in the right direction. But I suppose what matters is what happens on the pitch. But then again, I suppose if we don't do so well next season, we've kind of got what we paid for in terms of the season ticket prices. So it'll work out in the end, I'm sure. But hopefully we can see a more positive summer, and hopefully a nice little rebuild to take us into next season. And I think it'll be hopefully a very different Albion side that steps out onto the pitch come next season and the first game of next season. But it's I suppose more positive times and a more positive end to the season. But Aaron, it's been great having you on the Baggies podcast this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Where can people find a bit more from you, and where can they follow you if they want to hear a bit more from you?
Well, I just go for my Twitter. It's at @aflowermedia. I don't tweet so much, but when I do, it's usually about something to do with West Brom. But thank you very much for having me on. I've had a great time talking about maybe not talking about this season, but talking about next season in a bit more of a positive note. And yeah, I just really hope this club can return to a bit more positivity and return to a much higher level.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, listeners, you can follow Aaron via the link in the description. Go and check him out and go and give him a follow on Twitter. But yeah, that's the end of this week's Baggies podcast, and I suppose the end of the normal season. There'll be a few episodes throughout the summer that will kind of detail a few of these plans, and hopefully maybe a little bit of an end of season review if I can stomach that next week maybe. But yeah, thank you very much for watching this week's episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.